RealAg Live, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining us here today and tuning in. Great to be with you. I'm the host of RealAg Live, Shaun Haney, founder of RealAgCulture.com. Looking forward to today's discussion. We are going to have a blast today. I love these farmer features that we started doing here in the last couple of weeks. So today what we're going to do is we want you to participate. Okay, that's the key here. We want you to join in the conversation, ask questions, have comments. I'll get to as many of them as I possibly can. I'm a little tongue-tied. Today's guest is John Kowalchuk. Let's bring him in here. Hey, John, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Shaun?
I'm doing good. Of course, John farms in Rumsey, Alberta. We're going to hear more about that in a second. Now, if you have a question or comment for myself or John, all you have to do is enter it in the comment box, whether you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, or if you are at realagriculture.com/live. So, hey, John, let's start off here. Tell us a little bit about your farm.
Well, I'm a straight grain farmer from Rumsey here, and it's just pretty much like a 2,000-acre grain farm. I grow quite a variety of different crops, as we've talked about in the past. I grow lots of pulses, of course, and cereals and canola. And I'm kind of always pushing to try something different on the farm. And I guess big thing with me is the last probably 5-6 years, definitely social media has become a big part of it for me, being able to share what I do on my farm. And it has really added to kind of what I do. And kind of going forward, it's kind of a fun thing to have in your back pocket to be able to find information and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I've been doing on the farm the last few years. So
yeah. And always trying out different crops, right? That's the thing. Like you've been on the Farmer Rapid Fire on RealAg Radio a number of times, and I'm always fascinated. You're not somebody that likes to stand still. You're always like dipping your toe in different opportunities. I think this year, if I remember right, you grew 6 different crops.
yes, I did. Yeah. And the new ones this year were red lentils and faba beans, and both of them did quite well. So, but I've kind of lived by the premise that it's not a 1 year wins it kind of thing, that it's kind of 5-year thing. I did soybeans here. I started them, and I think it was about 2014. I did them for a full 5 years just to see where they went over the 5 years. So that was kind of with fabas and lentils. It'll be the same process, is just seeing how the long-term averages turn out, and if I feel there's a fit for me, I'll add it into the rotation full time, and in the meantime I might try something different. Who knows?
There's a lot of our audiences fascinated early on here by my kitchen behind me and my beautiful studio that I have rocking in my house today. Yes, we are broadcasting from my house, and the coffee bar behind me in my house is today's backdrop. Yes, so there's not. I've already had lunch. There's nothing cooking anymore, Brian. Sorry to break it to you. Hey, you bring up these different crops. Lara wants to know, how'd your faba beans work out this year?
Actually, really good. Yep, fabas were a surprise hit, even with some bug pressure kind of mid-season. I wasn't expecting birth armyworms to get in there, and I don't think there was a lot of people that were either. So actually had some bertha damage, but after all was said and done, the crop was still within spec, and so it's actually been sold for human consumption. So it was under the 5% damage. So it turned out quite well, and the yield was good. And I've already booked in pretty much everything except for the seed. I have to talk to Sarah Wagum Hoffman and make sure I get those fabas booked in again, because they did quite well. So
Yeah. Well, the other crops that people are following that you're growing, Brian says, I dubbed John an honorary Manitoban when he tried soybeans. And speaking of soybeans, Brian Kennedy wants to know, how are your soybeans this year?
there's only about 400 bushels in a granary, so that's all that they're doing. So I didn't grow any this year. So that was my 5 year kind of was up, and I've moved on, I guess, in a way. But until we find a variety that will grow in this area, I guess it's kind of on hold, but I still have all that experience in my back pocket. So
I know you're a diehard Flames fan. Is that Jerome McGinley up there in the back corner on the picture?
yes, it is. Yes, it is. I should have Lanny up there. I got Lanny somewhere too. So, but yeah, no, I got a few of them around.
And Lanny grew up. How far is Hannah from Rumsey?
From Rumsey. It's not very far, about
Yeah.
45 minutes or so probably. And actually his grandma kind of grew up, or was actually born in our area. So She was a McNaughton, so yeah. So there's actually a connection there. And Lynn McDonald, his brother at Olds College, was my dean when I went and took ag mechanics there. So I know Lynn quite well, and he was a big influence on me going forward after college because we had lots of good conversations at college and had some good talks. And the old pre-Christmas talk saying, "John, you can do better." I know you don't just need to party all the time. I know you can do better. So that first little talk I had with Lynn in his office, and went on, and it ended up after the the 2 years at taking ag mech that he gave me an award for some of the high honors for ag mech after 2 years. So going from being on basically the kick out list to the dean's list, it was fun. Yeah. But it was from a good talk from Lynn. So
You would get John. You got those talks. That
yes, I
surprises me.
did. I did. Yeah. Oh,
Oh.
I wanted to go there to learn, but there was just so many other things to learn too. So
Well, we had Stuart Cullum, president of Olds College, on the show last week, and we sort of talked about how of all the different faculties in a university or college, Aggies are the ones that like social activities the most. We get distracted.
yes. I may have gotten distracted a little bit, but I got on the straight and narrow after that, so that was good. So it was a good talk.
Yeah, Lindsay says it's the old Christmas graduation talk. Like if you don't
Yes.
smarten up, you're just going to be out of here at Christmas.
Hmm.
For sure. Hey, good question for Brian. Was it the lack of moisture that was the biggest issue with your soybeans, or just lack of heat? What was it?
It wasn't a lack of heat. It actually the everything, the growing degree days and all that, the CHUs, the heat units, everything was on par for growing a crop. It was late season moisture. So out of all the years I grew it, 2016, believe it or not, was the winner. It was all that late season moisture, and the soybeans absolutely loved it. And it was definitely my high average was that year. And I had soybeans push the 50s.
Mm.
And if I could even get to the 35s consistently, I would have kept growing them. But so that year we averaged 35, and yeah, so it was good. That was probably the year 2016. So
There was a bet going on how long it would take for Trish to show up in the background of the shot, and it just happened. So, hey, Trish, how's it going?
hi
I
Trish.
think she forgot that we were on. Oh, she's back again. So
Hi Trish.
there's like a moving
She can't hear me.
background going on here. This is hilarious. This is good stuff.
No, this
So,
is good. This is like having a coffee shop. This is what I said. This is you and me are just gonna sit and have a coffee and talk farming.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Wait till my daughter comes down. She might be a little bit more shy. Okay,
Yeah.
what will it take you to go into soybeans again?
I think it's getting a early variety that will maybe yield better. That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that's.
yeah.
But even in Manitoba, there was a number of growers last year. 2 years of 15 bushel beans. This year, a much better experience. So that's why they're expecting acres to go up again. So
Yeah.
it has to yield. Like and I think you probably find that too as you try different crops. Is the like, okay, there's like the cutting edge, and then there's like the bleeding edge, and it's kind of
Mhm.
cool to try some of this different stuff, but it's good to have a solid, diverse, expansive crop rotation, but it's got to also work out from a profitability standpoint too.
Yeah, and you have to be smart about it. You limit your risk, right? Let's not go all in. It's not like, oh gosh, red lentils are through the roof right now. Let's seed 500 acres on our farm. Like you just can't jump all in like that. It's finding out if it works on your farm first, slowly moving forward incrementally. And then if you see that it's okay, this is starting to pencil out, I have an average over 3-4 years where it's doing well for me, then look at expanding those acres. But always knowing that you have to be smart about it. And these guys that were going in and seeding like 2 or 3 sections of soybeans in Alberta, it's scary. Like you start anywhere north of Highway 1 basically. So I think you just have to be aware of that and just be smart about it. So
John, tell us about the operation. Do you have some like hired people? Do you farm just the family? Tell us about that a little bit.
yeah, so on my farm, it's basically me year round, and during the busy season, I do get some help. So I kind of at the fall, my brother helps, and then my son Jaden helps as well, running combine, and I have some other buddies that basically golf buddies and friends that will come out and run a combine once in a while. They just enjoy it, right? And I just try to make it fun for them. And in the spring, it's basically just me. And I find seeding isn't as big of an issue for me. I can get the crop in and spraying and that. I'm fairly efficient. I'm set up for a one-man operation that way. So pretty much I'm a one-man operation. I'm expanding a bit this year. So, but
Yeah, you're
so
taking
that
on
might
some
be a
more
little tricky.
land. Yeah, I remember you telling me that the Farmer Rapid Fire, you're taking a little bit more land for next year, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I'm pushing 2,000 acres, and as a single operator, I think that might be my max. But just like anything, I'm taking on small bites at a time and just see if it works, right?
Yeah. Jeff Bennett says, "Stop growing lentils, John." Um,
Oh,
uh,
I'm gonna double down on lentils, Jeff. Now that's it. I'm the whole farm into red lentils, and I'm gonna tweet the heck out of that. Yeah.
yeah, because Jeff, it's like the opposite of Bennett.
Yeah.
Jeff was on the Farmer Rapid Fire going back to like September, and I asked him, "Are lentils the crop that people swear at the most?" And he said, "No, it's wheat." Which crop do you swear at the most?
Me?
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of years when I've had a really tough barley crop, you get lots of straw and it's just hard to get through the combine. Like we'll grow some pretty nice malt barley crops. So yeah, so that's probably the one that gets me a lot. It costs me a lot of belts, chopper belts and stuff. So you're going along but it's just fun to watch that barley pour in there. It's as close as I'll ever get to growing corn is malt barley. Like in the last few years, we've seen some really good results from it. So I guess that's my corn. It's my, oh yeah, look, I got some cab barley. So it's
Yeah.
kind of fun.
Yeah, yeah. Questions here. Kara wants to move it over to social media. So not so much of an agronomic topic, but on the social side, you have a large following on social media, Twitter specifically. How do you encourage differing viewpoints to have a conversation, and how do you deal with conflict?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. So I guess the encouraging part is I just kind of just share my own story a lot of times and just kind of put stuff out there. So a lot of times and I do try to be positive and try to keep the conversation positive. So a lot of times there are certain people that will come in and try to turn it to a different conversation, and either I'll ignore it or address it as positive as I can and try to bring it back to the main kind of question that I posed or whatever I initially posted. So um, conflict is always a tough one, and it seems like some days it's just everybody's on each other's case, and lots of times I'll try to call it out on Twitter. I'll like, what's up with everybody? Like, what's going on here? Why is everybody in a bad mood? Like, come on,
Yeah.
let's have some fun. And so I'll post something goofy. I'll post my TikToks, and usually that gets people either scratching their heads or laughing, one of the two. So trying to turn it back and just having fun. And sometimes that means laughing at yourself. It means poking fun at yourself, or just maybe putting yourself out there and putting something else that's maybe positive and hopefully turning that conversation around. It doesn't always work, mind you, but
You, yeah, you're on TikTok. You get TikTok? Can you explain it to any of us, please?
well, I think it's kind of one of those things you kind of got to make it into your own. I don't go in there thinking you're going to be there with the millennials and be all these young guys and putting stuff out there that's, like they're doing your dances and stuff. And it's just, no, you got to make it your own. And we can honestly go in there and do a lot of the same things we do on Twitter or even on Facebook and just kind of have fun and put some information out there. The thing about it that's so cool is that all the people on TikTok that are following me, they have nothing to do with me mostly on Twitter. There are some farmers, but a lot of the people on TikTok are consumers. They're just young people. Just you post something funny and they all of a sudden they're following you. It's the great, the West. It's like the Wild West out there right now on TikTok. It is. It's cool. Like I'll post stuff out there and I'll get 50,000 views, like 50,000 possible views of people. And how does that happen? It's a picture of me swinging from the cable on my on my auger.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, that was your Wrecking Ball spoof.
yeah, yeah. So just doing goofy stuff like that, and then all of a sudden it's like, then they look at that and maybe say, hey, there's an actual true face of farming. Like even though it is goofy, they're like, hey, I kind of know a farmer now, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Hey, what question here from Devin Walker watching on Facebook? What happened to the hashtag regular farmer?
Oh, it's still there. It's just it's kind of every once in a while I think of something, but it's kind of one of those things that'll probably be more this winter. We'll see more hashtag regular farmer stuff from me. But for most guys, there's lots of people posting it now. It's cool, these hashtags that all of a sudden everyone grabs onto, and that's the fun part. So I'll follow a hashtag and just go through and look what's new coming up, and there's still new stuff on Regular Farmer coming up, but just other people are using it. They'll have something funny come along. They'll be fixing something, and maybe they'll make a goofy weld, or they'll be hitting it with a hammer, and it's like, oh, this is something a regular farmer would do. That was something that I started. It's cool to see that where people kind of jump on. So
Why'd you start it?
why did I start it? So, well, that was a story that happened kind of a few years ago, but I was at a farm show in Saskatchewan and walking around and stopped at a booth and was going to purchase something. And when the fellow saw my credit card, he was like, oh, are you that Kowalchuk Farms on Twitter? And at that time, I think I had 2,500 followers or something, and I was following like 800 or 1,000 people. And he goes, I don't understand why people would follow you. Like, you're not following all those people back. Why would anybody follow you? You're just a regular farmer. And I kind of laughed it off at the time, and just kind of molded over. And over the next few months or whatever, I started thinking about it, that, you know what, there's nothing wrong with being just a regular farmer. And I knew that it was kind of silly that everybody was following me at that time, but it was kind of, that's something I could build off of. And I think there's a lot of people out there that feel they're just a regular farmer, so they don't post things. Like, there's no reason for you not to post something on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, just because you're just a regular farmer. Though that's what people want to see. Just because you don't find it interesting, there are people that find what we do interesting. So I think we need to capitalize on that.
This is my hesitation with Instagram most times. Like, I have had no trouble tweeting ever. But there are so many times with Instagram where I'm really like, oh, no one's going to be interested in that picture. It's not that good of a picture. That picture sucks. Who cares? But I got to drop my own guard on that as well.
Yeah. Honestly, what you have to do is when you post something or thinking about posting something, you have to take the 1,000-foot view on it. You need to step back away from it and think, okay, how would a consumer, or how would somebody who doesn't come from the farm or doesn't know what I do, like you, Shaun, they might not have no background in media or whatever. So you do all these interesting things behind the scenes that we don't see. You might think, oh, this is just humdrum day-to-day stuff that I do. But some guy that's inspiring or wanting to do something like you, they'd be like, oh, this is so cool to get that background view. Well, I have to think of that as a farmer, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, Daryl, who's watching on Twitter, he wants to get political here. Hey, John, any thoughts on the Alberta government's new farmer-driven research initiative? Do you have any thoughts on that, John? Ooh, I said we weren't going to get into deep topics, but Daryl took us there. Do you have any thoughts?
Do I have any thoughts on that? Well, it's really too bad we're in kind of that environment right now where a lot of the people that we kind of lived and died by in the last 5 to 10 years in government, and a lot of the research people and a lot of the guys and ladies were friends of ours on Twitter, definitely people that we dealt with and asked questions day to day. And some of those have left, and that's a tough one. So I guess going forward, we all have to do our part in some type of cutback or whatever it is to try to tighten the purse, right? But it's been tough to watch those great people leave our research in Alberta, and that's the hard thing I have about it. I guess this is giving opportunity to new people. That would be the glass half full. Oops, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Malfunction.
Lose my earpiece.
Yeah, technical misfunction. We're live. It happens.
Malfunction. But yeah, so that's the part of it that's tough. But also, this gives opportunity for new people to step in, and hopefully we see some new voices. And we've already seen that in ag, that there are some new ones coming in. So yeah. I think that's good. And as far as the farmer-driven part of it, I think a lot of the stuff that had been done in the past was done in the farmer in mind anyways. So I don't know as much as us telling them what we need. They know fairly well from in the past what we needed. So I don't know if that answered Daryl's question, but my thoughts on it are that I really did like what we have, but we all got to do our part moving forward, I guess.
Comments here from Devin. 100% John, the least thought out things I post on social media get the most traction. That is so true. It's the same when you're writing stories. By the way, you put like 3 days in an editorial, and you've like grinded on it, and it gets nobody looks at it, and then there's something goofy you post that takes 5 minutes, and it's the top
Yep.
story of the year. Same thing as social media or social media. Brian
Yep.
says I have always had an issue with the just a farmer term when used as a negative thing. I like the funny parts of hashtag regular farmer. Jeff Bennett, I like being underestimated. That was nice. And Daryl says back, sorry for putting you on the spot, John. You have a strong voice about, and just was wondering your opinion. Oh no, hey, no
Okay.
problem at all.
Yeah, no problem,
Uh,
Daryl. That's good.
Peter's watching from Nigeria, so we are people watching from across the pond. So there you go.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Awesome. I appreciate all the comments. We got a lot of comments today. This is fabulous. Hey, John,
That's
a
awesome.
question for you. You mentioned you're a one-man band. Okay.
Mhm.
What are some of your biggest challenges with that? Like I get the opportunity because you're kind of in control of everything. You don't need to worry about delegation. It's really up to you, and a lot of farmers kind of like it that way. There's the independent side of it. But
Yep.
what are your biggest challenges with being a one man band?
Well, logistics are always an issue, right? When you're by yourself. So I have stuff set up pretty good for basically moving everything. I'm about 15 miles, excuse me, from one end to the other for my farm. So that 15-mile move can become quite an ordeal. It's almost like a mountain you got to climb, and some days it takes me all day to move during harvest if I don't have any help. But so that's probably one of the biggest things for as far as logistics, I guess. But you're right about me being able to make decisions. It's maybe why I'm able to do more things and maybe do things like try new crops and stuff. I don't have to go to a committee and to make a choice. I can just do it. And so in a lot of ways, that's a positive. Other negatives, I guess, are you're by yourself. Like I'm during seeding, there's times I come home, everybody's in bed. I don't see, and I
Mm.
leave before anybody's up. I can go easily 4 or 5 days without seeing another human. Like it's because I honestly, I have everything on the farm. Everything's there. My fertilizer's all there. My seeds all there. I have all my inputs are right there on my farm ready, and I'm just going. And I may even stay at the farm. I have a little room in my heated shop that I with a bed in it and a TV, and I'll stay overnight. So that can get tough, and that's why on Twitter you may see me quite active during seeding
Yeah.
because that is my social activity, or maybe my way of keeping in touch or contacting. And of course I'm texting and talking to my wife and family for sure through all that too, but it's a way for me to visit and to stay kind of engaged a bit, because you can get in your own head, right,
Yeah.
when you're by yourself for long periods of time. And I think that's where a lot of people that farm by themselves or by themselves for quite a while, you get in your own head. So it's nice to have that out. It's all of a sudden it's almost like it shakes you loose from it, and it's like, oh, that guy's posting something funny, that's kind of cool, I want to respond to that.
Yeah.
And it kind of, it does break up the day, and it's pretty cool. So definitely the isolation is a big part of being by yourself, and that's farming by yourself, and that can be a challenge.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask you that. So you tied that together right away. That's why you're so active at times on social media, is because it's that release. It's like having some sort of connectivity to people when you are spending so much time by yourself. That's yeah. It's
Hmm.
there's there's like a at some point there's like a line of like, oh man, this is great having all this windshield time, all this time to think, and then there's a point where it's like, okay, yeah, this is enough of the windshield time. I
Yeah.
could use some interaction with some people. I've thought enough. I've covered all the bases, and I'm kind of going a little bit squirrely here. So
Yeah, for sure that happens. Yep.
Devin says, as a one-man band family man, how do you deal with combine cab syndrome, the flood of non-essential post-harvest tasks after the combine shuts off? Any advice for us younger folks trying to navigate this? Ooh, that's an interesting question. Do you see it
Mm.
there?
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. Yeah, for me it's tough too. Yeah, you get in your own head, like I said. It's tough to kind of deal with all that. You can put 100 things through your head, but just know that you can only do one thing at a time and concentrate on what you're doing. And probably for me, and um and just know that some days you're just not going to get all those jobs done. Like there's just so much to do post harvest. I got caught this year with the cold weather coming early in October, and I had some spraying that I wanted to do. And post harvest is when I like to go out and do some weed control, and it's just it didn't get done. But you got to look at it. It's not the end of the world. I can deal with that in the spring if I have to. It's not going to destroy me, or if I didn't get that tractor in the shop, it's not going to kill me. I can it'll be okay. And that's kind of my advice for maybe younger guys, is to just know your limits, and don't beat yourself up, and definitely spend time with your family. I've talked about it lots on social media, having balance isn't only for you, it's for your family, it's for all the people around you. Because if you don't have some type of balance in your life, you can get caught up in farming, and pretty soon you've neglected so many other people, and it's not fair, right? So having a proper balance, and I think that relates to anybody in any business, right? You have to make time for your family.
Yeah, we on a couple of years ago, we were doing our tech tour meeting series. One of our keynote speakers wrote a book called Off Balance on Purpose, talking about, the quest to have balance. Balance is not like 50-50. Balance may change throughout the year. And I think this is a fit for farmers, right? Work-life balance is different at harvest time than it is, say, in January. And so don't beat yourself up too much about having that perfect balance throughout the year.
Right. Yep.
I know you're a big fan of farm shows. What's your plan for the winter here? Do you have a snow sled, or what are you going to be doing?
I don't know. I think we're going to be on Zoom lots, I think, or whatever
Yeah.
the new platforms are. I think we're going to be seeing lots of this, definitely, as far as maybe extension work, or getting to learn more about farming or stuff that's new. I think this is going to be maybe our new normal for a while. I think embracing stuff like this, these live broadcasts, and having discussions through this, I think that's going to be a big part of it. But definitely, I'm a huge fan of that interaction at farm shows, and it's tough to imagine going forward with some of these farm shows and not have that interaction. That's why these live ones, or sorry, these online shows, I think are a tough one to do. I think going forward, I'll probably be on Twitter lots this winter, maybe sharing stuff, and hopefully learning lots through that and different social media. So
Yeah, we've had a lot of feedback from people saying, I like these live broadcasts where I can kind of, so the same reason you talk about reaching out in social media, it's kind of, interact with some people and have some fun and learn some stuff at the same time. It's a nice little release. Brianne asked the question, will you attend more or fewer farm shows in these virtual formats that are going on?
I guess attending is kind of an interesting word, because I think a lot of these ones, like I kind of went to a few of them, or whatever it is, kind of virtually went to them, and you kind of pick and choose. So you're kind of in and out of it. So are you really attending it, or are you just kind of jumping in and getting a little bit of information out you can, and then leaving? So I think for me, I'll probably see more information, but as far as putting the time into it, like where you're there for the full day, and watching show after show, or whatever it is, I can't see me sitting down for a day and attending all these different sessions if it's online. It gets to be tough, and I think they need to try to bring in more personal into it. And I know it's not an easy task, and maybe bring it so that maybe there's more interaction, and like stuff like this live here, like what Shaun's doing, where we can see questions live, and you have somebody there and you're talking to them. I think this is the format that you can engage in it. And so I think if it was more stuff like this, I would probably attend more, honestly, because you're not traveling, but you're still missing out on that social side of it.
Yeah.
Like us in Farm Tech last year, Shaun, sitting there watching the hockey game, having a beer.
We did.
Like we miss stuff like that.
Yes.
We had people from we had Will there with us too, having a beer, stuff like that, and Scott, and like stuff like that. And I think, well, was Kara there? Yeah, Kara was there too.
Yeah,
like
she
stuff
was.
like that. That's the part of a farm show that most farmers still want to see.
Well, and
they want to have that sit down.
Will from the UK was there too, right?
Will, yeah. Yeah, and that's yeah, we became friends after that. It was awesome. Like I got to
Yeah.
talk to him lots at Farm Tech, and those opportunities are going to be few and far between
Okay,
for a while.
good question here from Brian. Getting back to this one man band thing, 'cause I find this also very interesting. So when do you decide something is I'll do it myself task versus letting someone else take care of something? For example,
Mhm.
agronomy, marketing, fixing equipment, etc.
Yes, and that's a tough one. Definitely, there's lots of opportunities out there to outsource work, and you kind of, for me, it still comes down to the things that I love to do. I don't want to outsource them to other people because I enjoy doing them. So, which is stupid that I like fixing stuff. Like it's dumb, but I'm a mechanic. I was ever since I was like 8 years old. If something broke down in the house, if like I remember fixing the VCR when I was 10 years old. My dad's ready to throw out the VCR, and I'm just like, let me look at it, Dad. And I tore it all apart, put it back together, and I got it working. And we used it for another 8 years after. But just stuff like that, it just fascinates me. So it's always last kind of if I can't fix it and then I have to call a mechanic, I'll do it. So, but
Hmm.
other than that, I like to repair it. As far as agronomy and marketing, I actually hire out my marketing to a local group. So I actually have some guys and that do that and help me with that. I feel that's where the extra eyes really pay, and it really helps me out. And it's something that I'm not maybe excited about doing and having to deal with the ups and downs of the market because it can get very emotional. So having that other voice or other person or whatever in there to help take some of that emotion out, I think it's
Hmm.
important to have. Um, Agronomy, I want to try to move forward on it on my own, but I need help. I understand that I don't maybe know it all. So that's something I'm kind of looking into as agronomy, maybe a little more.
Yeah, but I think being able to fix your own stuff, like being handy that way mechanically, is actually a real advantage. And I think a lot of people sometimes think about it from a service call perspective, right? You're saving money on service calls on kind of low hanging fruit. But I also think it saves you money from the fact that you're not scared of used equipment, right? You're not scared to buy something that is 5 or maybe even 10 years old because you have the confidence that you can fix it. If you didn't have that skill, John, you're kind of having to make a choice to buy something newer because there's less chance it breaks down. And you've also
Mhm.
got the increased cost of some of the service calls. So I think that's something that a lot of people would be jealous of because I know a lot of farmers now that don't really have a lot of those mechanical skills at all.
And there's definitely room for that, and I think in ag for people coming up and young people coming up, and definitely the mechanic side of it. If you could tie that in with an agronomy or whatever kind of training you're looking for at college or university, I think there's definitely demand for it. Farmers need help, like for things like mechanics and different things, and if you have that ability, I think it's a huge trait to have. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. There was a question here from Brianne. I want to get back to it. Where is it? She said she joined late, but she wants to make sure she didn't miss. What are the next crops that you're going to be trying?
Oh, yeah. That I'm kind of still researching for sure, but I'm going to continue to grow fabas and lentils for sure, just in small increments and just see how they do in the next few years. But um, going forward on that, honestly, I'd love to try corn. I'd love to try field corn and take it to grain. Like I feel I can in our area. I think there's enough um, heat units in my area to grow maybe an early variety and take it to grain. I think there's opportunities there for marketing because we do have local feedlots and there's demand for it. I think it's just a matter of time before we see large scale grain farm for corn. Like
Yeah.
I just think it's there, and I know it requires some specialty equipment, so that's why I've kind of been a little bit hesitant starting it. A different corn head and a full planter, right? You need to have certain things in place, but that would be something that would be before I retire. I want to have some grain corn and take it to maturity. So
Well, I mentioned 5 to 10 year old equipment. Lindsay reminds me that some of it is 30-year-old equipment because there are people that are sheep farmers out there. Brian says repair costs versus interest and depreciation costs, always a debate for sure.
yep.
Eric has a question here. At what point do you consider upgrading older equipment when it gets too costly to fix? There's a good question.
Yeah, so I guess That's a tough one. So each piece of equipment's a little bit trickier, and depending on what it is, there's a lot of high maintenance stuff out there. Oh, did I cut out there,
No,
Shaun?
you're there. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Yeah. And so for me, it's I actually during harvest I keep a pile by the shop for the combines. So if a combine's pile gets too big, all the stuff I've had to fix on it, then I might have to get rid of this one right now. But sometimes that pile can be pretty big, and some years it's pretty small. So this year it was fairly small. There were some big items though, but for me, I guess it's not so much keeping like an Excel spreadsheet on each piece. It's more keeping it in the back of my mind that I may have to update it or upgrade it sometime. And I think it's something you kind of learn from, and you will make the wrong choice and keep a piece of equipment 1 year too long or whatever it is. It's bound to happen. It's like, oh no, I have a major repair. It will happen, but know that you can't beat yourself up on it. You could get 3 or 4 more years out of that. And so I think that's kind of a tough question. And it is like rolling the dice a lot of times with new or with used equipment. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's not. There's no right answer either. That's the other part of it. Not only is it tough to answer, but there's no right answer. It's not like you could ask 10 farmers that same question, and everybody has their own theory on it. It's just like a pickup truck. Some people think once a pickup truck gets to 100,000 kilometers, it's like it's mild out. Some people, not till it crosses 500,000 kilometers do they think that thing's mild out, and some go even further than that, right? So everybody has a different perspective. There are no right answers on that at all. So
No.
like you said, you're taking on a few more acres here for the upcoming year, John. 2,000 acres, kind of the top end for the equipment you're running, and kind of doing a lot of it yourself. I know you love the industry. Is this something you see yourself? Are we going to be talking to John Kowalchuk like in 30 years? And like, do you see yourself doing this for as long as you possibly can? Because it just seems like you're just somebody that just absolutely loves this business.
Well, I do love it for sure. Yeah, it's something I want to stay involved in. I'm 52, so it's gonna have to end sometime for sure. I don't know if I can farm. My dad farmed till he was in his 70s, so I don't know if I can quite do that. But we'll see how things go. But well, with new equipment and stuff, as long as I can keep up with it, who knows? Maybe I'll be farming in 30 years from now. You never know. But I kind of doubt it. So for me, it's as long as it stays fun and I feel I'm engaged and able to kind of keep on the front edge of it and not feel like I'm falling behind, I'll keep doing it. But definitely things like Twitter and different social media and keeping up and watching stuff like what you guys do here, it helps me stay engaged, and I just continue to be amazed at what ag's doing and how we're moving forward. So I just want to kind of stay part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you know what? I think this is a good way to sum it up. Daryl says, I don't know how much John hears it, but from one farmer to another, thank you for the difference you make in our industry, John. And I think that's a great way to wrap up today's show. We've been talking to John Kowalchuk, farmer from Rumsey, Alberta. John, thanks a lot for joining us here today on RealAg Live. And I agree with Daryl. Just honestly, keep going on the social media. You're doing a great job. And always love chatting with you on all the real agriculture properties.
You bet. Thanks, Sean.
Okay, make sure you check out RealAg Radio today, everybody. We are going to have some really, really good discussions. The show sponsor today is Farmers Business Network. We're also going to talk to Carrie Tate, the Globe and Mail. We're going to talk about some of these rural small towns in Alberta and quite frankly across the country really struggling from a tax basis and trying to invest in infrastructure. There's some huge deficits out there, and some towns really, really worried about being essentially swarmed up by their municipalities. We're also going to hear from JP Gervais. He is the chief economist with Farm Credit Canada, talking about some of the commentary today economically from the Bank of Canada. Thanks everybody for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Live, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody. Cheers.